Okay guys, so today we're going to talk about direct and indirect object pronouns in French. These are super complicated. They're not fun. They're the kind of thing that after years of exposure, all of a sudden it's like this light bulb goes off and you're like, I get it, this is okay. But when we first learn it, it's super frustrating, very challenging. Generally feel pretty sad when you learn this concept because it's really deflating. Anyways, direct and indirect object pronouns. Let me give you an example of what they're used for before we actually get into what they are. So here's an example. I'm going to read you out this sentence, and then eventually I think you're going to figure out, you're going to be like, I get it. Here's the thing. So, did you see the movie 10 Things I Hate About You? The movie 10 Things I Hate About You is so good. In 10 Things I Hate About You, the actor was really believable, and the actress was too. When I decided to watch the 10 Things I Hate About You, I got some popcorn so that when I was watching 10 Things I Hate About You, I could have a snack. So, as you guys can see there, that was way too repetitive. I mean, clear, we understood. Obviously we were talking about the movie. There was no confusion there at all. It was super understandable, but very repetitive, and almost to the point where if somebody repeats what it is that they're talking about so many times, you almost think like, what is going on? What's wrong here? Why can't they just say it? So that's generally the gist of all of these words. Is they replace other words. Usually it's to simplify, it's to make it easier, it's to make it smoother, it's to avoid repetition. That's kind of the whole point of this. In theory, you could avoid all of this if you really wanted to. But there's a lot that you can't say unless you know how to do this. So that's kind of your goal. If you're okay staying at the most basic, like the dog is blue, if you're okay at that level in French, you don't have to know this. But the minute you want to move beyond that, this is what we have to master. So what we have, kind of the fundamental divide here is you're going to learn about, it's going to say direct and indirect. And so for us in English, that can be kind of tricky for a few reasons, but mainly we don't think about these things when we're speaking. We're not like, wow, I totally used a direct verb. That was awesome. No. So here's an example. Let's say I have a stick and I'm hitting somebody. That's direct, right? I am making contact with them. I hit them. It's direct. The minute I have a forgetting what this word is, like the word to, in my word. Why am I forgetting? A preposition, there it is. The minute we have a preposition in our sentence, now it makes it indirect. So let's say I hit Sam, or I talk to Sam. The minute I have to, I'm looking at Sam. Now that makes it indirect. So the preposition is what divides it. That's kind of the main, that's really the basis of it. I'm going to show you in a little bit what can be really frustrating for us. And again, this is like, I love French, but there's so many roadblocks here. So many hurdles, is that in French, there's some verbs that are indirect, and in English, some are indirect and in English they're direct, and then vice versa. So a big problem of this is, as much as we look and we think, okay, these are our direct and indirect object pronouns, the problem is that eventually we need to know what verbs take these little words. And so there's lists that go with this stuff that you don't see. So as much as this looks like the simplified version, there's actually a lot of emphasis on the verb. And if you don't know what verb you're using, even if you know the meaning, if you don't know what it takes, you're kind of set up for failure. So I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through this. So there's a few steps. If you really wanted to approach this like math, I mean, I hate math, but sometimes the clarity of math is just, it's beautiful. So I tried to approach this for math for those people who are mathy people like you. So step one, replace the idea that you're trying to avoid repeating with one of the words that you think is most appropriate. And I'll show you later on how to do that, but this is the overall steps. So let's just go. So step number one is let's just translate directly right into French. So let's say it's like, we speak to you. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll read this out. So let's say the idea is, we speak to you. You're just going to replace the idea of we with nous, the idea of speak with parlons, because I have to make nous and parler conjugate, so now it's nous parlons. Tu is avec, or a, even if you forget which one it is. And then you, it's just toi. And again, you might be like, oh, is it two? How do you know it's you? That's another lesson. But let's just say, put it into French the best that you can. Then we replace the word that you want to replace with an object pronoun. So this is when, again, you look at the list, you come back up here, and you try and think, okay, which is the best word up here? And I'm going to use to, and actually, once I finish explaining this, I'll go back and just say what these are, because I forgot to do that. And you're going to find to, which is you, or to you, and then, I'm so bad at this here. And then I'm going to put it right in here. So literally, it's now nous parlons avec toi. So here's now the kind of funny thing. Once we replace a word, just think of this as a general rule. It kind of helps. The minute you replace what the word is, you have to replace where it is. You have to change the place. Change the meaning, change the place. Think of it like that. So for some reason, I don't know why this is the way it is. It's just this is what happens. We take our idea, which typically in English we want to put after the noun because that's just how we speak in English. And now it has to go the verb. We have to take the noun, which goes generally after the verb, and we have to put it in front of the verb. Who knows why it is, but that's how it goes. So let's say I'm going to replace the idea of avec toi with te. So our order now so far is like literally nous parlons te, because I've changed toi to te, which is like to you. Te is you and to you. So I'm going to get rid of avec toi, make it te. Now I have nous parlons te. The minute I've changed from avec toi into te, now it goes here, and parlons goes at the end. So literally now it's nous te parlons. We speak to you. So before I forget, I'll come back and do this. Let me just go back up here and just tell you what all of these are. These over here generally are our pronouns. These are our people words. So like me, te, ça, nous, these are like me, you, to you, us, to us, and you, and to you. The nice thing about these guys is even if the verb is direct or indirect, there's not like a separate word for me or to me or you or to you. So that's kind of nice because let's say you don't know the verb, you can kind of hide it in there with these guys. This is where I think it's the most confusing. These are generally our direct words like le, la, les, it, like it, her, it, him, them, that kind of stuff. So let's say I'm hitting him. Let's go back to my example. I know violent, but whatever, it works. I hit him. Because the verb frapper is a direct verb, it doesn't take like a preposition. I'm just going to say je le frappe. I hit him. Here's the thing though, is that these lui and leur, so lui is to him, to her, but it can also be him and her depending on the situation. I'll get into that in a minute. And leur, so them or to them. If it's indirect, then I have to use lui. So let's say now instead of hitting him, I can't say je lui frappe because that's like I'm hitting him. I'm going to say I'm hitting to him. I've got to say je le frappe, I hit him because it's direct. But let's say I'm speaking to her, then I'm going to say je lui parle because I'm speaking to her. The preposition now makes it to her. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. The verb y on its own, it generally means there. And it also replaces verbs which require an a. And again, I'll get into this later. And then finally we have the word en, which is some, and typically it replaces a number, or verbs which require the word de, or even just the word some. An interesting thing, I heard this, I don't know, it's super funny. Think of like the noise that a donkey makes, so like ee-aw, ee-aw. This is like the order goes, I'm like ee-aw. That'll come into play later on when we leave this. So let me just go back, again, still just our baby steps of how we move things around. So again, let's say English sentence is I write to them. Just step one, directly put it right into French as best as you can without any of those fancy object pronouns yet. So, je écris à eux. See, I haven't even compressed them yet. I was like, it's weird. So, directly into French. So, I is je, write is écrit, to is à, them is eux. Not bad. Step two, replace the word that you want to replace with an object pronoun. So, let's say I want to replace the word to them. So, I go back up here and even just go order like process of elimination. I find it actually just works best. You're like, could I replace the idea of to them with me? No, that doesn't work. Me, to them? No, it's not the same person. To you? Yeah, that could kind of work. Or sorry, not work. What am I talking about? So, himself, herself, to him. No, that doesn't work. New, to us, to you, to us or to us. No, like I can't replace to them with to us. That doesn't work. Maybe it's like vous, like you or to you. No, that doesn't work. So I simply go all the way through my list until I find the one that says to them right here, leur. So then I come back here. So it's like I'm going to replace the idea of to them with leur because leur means to them. So now my order is like je écris leur, which again, if you said that to a French person, I'm sure they'd understand, but they'd be like, you are confused. So the minute we replace, the minute we change what the word is, we then have to change the place. And it always now goes right in front of the verb. So now it's je leur écris, and I'm finished. So what do we do next? Okay, so just give you a few examples. So let's say, this is so sad. I hate the verb to hit because it's so violent, but it's so visual. It kind of makes sense of it. I hit the dog, I hit it. I know, sad, SPC, I know, very sad. But let's say it's like, je frappe le chien. No, let's do the president. That's easier. No one's going to cry over the president. So it's like, I hit the president, I hit him. So je frappe le président. And now we're going to try and replace the idea of him with a direct object pronoun. So I've actually just made it super simple. We've got like le, la, les. And I'm telling you, the answer's got to be one of the three. So process of elimination, you're like, well, le, that's for masculine words. That could work. La is for president, or for feminine words, and here I'm telling you it's a male president, okay? So la doesn't work because I can't say, otherwise it's like I'm hitting her. That doesn't work because it's a male president. Lei, he's not, there's just one guy. There's not 4 presidents. So I can't use lei. So process of elimination, I have to use le. So je le frappe. Let's do another one. Let's say now, he speaks to you and I. He speaks to us. So now I'm trying to replace the idea of us. I'm giving you a few choices. I've got, what am I giving you? Nous, vous, me, and te. So let's say, so the answer I'm telling you right now is us, whatever. Let's just see why the other answers can't be correct. Let's say it's to us. Vous, that's not the idea of to us. That's the idea of to you. Me is the idea of to me. So I can't use to me replacing to us. I'm only a fraction of the whole, okay? And then te is to you. But we need the idea of to us, so it's got to be nous, nous parle. I think when we do it like this and we try and recognize what the correct answer is, we're very good at this. Coming up with our own answer is much more difficult. Okay, so let's say he goes to France, I go there too. When we look at the pronoun y, the e, that's a place, or a verb requiring the letter a. So here's the thing, is let's say it's like he goes to France, I go there too. I'm telling you right now, this is not the answer because I haven't talked about all extensively. He's going to France, I go there too. The idea is the y, because we know y, the e, represents a place. All represents, I think I said briefly earlier, it's like some, or a quantity, or a verb requiring de. So we know it's got to be e because it's a place. So again, we can pick things out quite easily, but creating them on our own are a little bit more challenging. So here's now, this is really tricky. We have these verbs here take direct object pronouns. And this is, let me just kind of show you some of the reasons why this is. This is kind of tricky stuff. Let's say the verb is to wait for. And you're thinking, and in English, like I say, I wait for my mom. And like the for makes it indirect in English. But if let's say my scenario is, my mom says, can you wait for me? Chances are what she's saying is, I'm going to be 5 minutes late, don't leave, I'll show up eventually. But if you think about it in a very literal meaning, if I were to say, I'm going to wait for my mom in line, what I also could be implying is that I am going to be holding the place for my mom. I'm doing the waiting for my mom so that she doesn't have to do the waiting. And then when she shows up, I'll leave. She can take my place and go buy the tickets. So because of that little subtle difference, I think in English, I think that's why in French, it's literally just attendre. So in English, I want to say, I wait for my mom. And in French, because of that, I want to say, j'attends pour ma mère. I want to say pour, because it's, in English, we have for, we want to say pour. But I can't. I literally, it's just j'attends ma mère. I literally I wait my mom. Is kind of how we interpret it in English. So some of these verbs here were a little bit confused already before we even see them. There was another one I wanted to, chercher, to look for. This is another thing I wanted to show you. Let's say, and even just in English, sometimes analyzing our own language, you're like, oh, that is really funny. I didn't think of this. Let's say like with your dog. And you're like, I'm going to look for my dog. Your dog is lost. Generally speaking, that's kind of the sense that we get. You're like, I'm looking for my dog. He's wandered off. I'm going to go look for him. But the problem, though, is I could also, like, let's say my dog is like, hey, Mom, go look for my bone for me. Go look for me. In that case, I'm doing the looking for my dog. So I think that's why, again, the French have a difficult time with this preposition. I'm sure that's why that's not there, is literally, like, if I'm saying, je cherche mon chien, in English, that means, like, I'm looking for my dog. Like, where is my dog? But when I say, je cherche pour mon chien, I'm looking for my dog, I'm sure French people are thinking like, what are you looking for your dog for? Like, what are you trying to help your dog find? So this is a bit of a dilemma for us because we see things here that we just, in English, like to wait for, that's indirect in English, but in French it's direct. Like to look for, in English that's indirect, in French it's direct. Who knows why we have such a divide, but there we are. Another funny thing is, like, let's say these are, in English, they're direct, and in French, they're indirect. So for example, to phone. Like, nobody ever says, like, I'm gonna telephone my mom. Nobody says telephone, we just say phone, which is, right there, phone. But again, I don't say, I'm gonna phone to my mom. I say, I phone my mom. So again, that's like a pothole we fall in all the time because we want to say, je téléphone ma mère, but I should be saying, je téléphone à ma mère, because it's indirect in French, whereas in English, it's direct. So, set up for failure. So again, so now when we look at this, after thinking about that, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, am I using direct or indirect if I'm saying like it or him or her? That's kind of our hurdle. So, let me actually, before I move on, let me, this is so horrible. Okay, let's just look at this here. So let's just look at the example of, let's just say my mom, before I move on. Let's say I'm looking at her, okay? Here it's saying direct. So when I have my choice of le, la, les, these are direct. Lui and la, those are indirect. So I'm saying I'm looking at my mom and I know it's direct. I have to use an answer from this column simply based on the verb. In English, you might be like, her, should I use this one or this one? No, it's got to be from this column. So I'm saying I'm looking at her, and it says direct, je la regarde. I'm going to use that one. But if over here, now I'm like phoning to her, same idea of her in English, like the her hasn't changed. It's not like she's more her. Now, because it's indirect, let's say I'm phoning to her, now I have to go over here to the indirect column where it's to her and je lui téléphone. So that's kind of, so same idea of her, but simply if it's direct or indirect, it makes us use different words in our little flag of object pronouns. So, bypassed. Stupid thing. See, this is off. Okay, whatever. Where are we going to now? Okay. Just again to show you here, I love these little sentence builders. These things are the best. You take an idea from here, 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 you know it's going to be correct based on how it works. The whole thing I just want to show you with this concept here is that the object pronoun goes in front of the verb. So here it's like je te cherche, I look. So in order, in French it's like je te cherche, but in English it's like I look for you. Or maybe it's like je te paye, I pay you. The te goes in front. So, and like all of our object pronouns go in front, just so that's a little bit more clear. Can I? Oh, I can. Okay. Okay. As you guys can also see as well with like I and en, they also go in front. What else did I want to show you guys? Okay. Let me just show you right away. An easy thing to remember, because I know this is like, there's some hard stuff here to remember, is the pronoun I generally replaces the letter A. And de, like en, generally replaces de or a quantity. So even visually, I don't even need to know what my sentence is. I see a de, and even here my teacher did this once. This is awesome. Think of it like this. So en and de are in love. And then the idea of I and the letter A are in love. So anytime I see a de, or I know it's going to be en. I don't even have to know what I'm talking about, but I know it's going to be en. That's just kind of like a nice little general rule. This one, again, I see a de, I know it's got to be en. This one, de, it's got to be an en. And then, oh, sorry, I had it up there. Generally, I'll write it down. I and a is replaced by the pronoun I, but it's also a place. And down here, just as well, it can be a quantity or the word some. So here, now we have a place. Again, I don't even have to know what the rest of my sentence is, but because I know it's a preposition, that makes it a place. Now I'm going to have to use I. Next thing here, I've got a de, a de, a de, a de. It has to be en. So it's kind of nice how, like, I hate to say it, like, you don't even have to know what you're talking about. Yeah, but that sounds stupid, but as long as you can see these key words and you can figure it out pretty quickly, you're like, I know which object pronoun I have to use. Sorry, let me just quickly erase this. Oh, I'm so slow at erasing. What a waste of your time watching a teacher erase something. Okay, so let's carry on. Right, so these are the ones that take indirect objects in English but direct in French. I think we already talked about this. Those are direct objects but take indirect in French. And I think I just figured out a trick. If I just open it on the lines. Okay, one final thing I want to show you is that, okay, sometimes in English we have more than one object pronoun. So an example would be, let's say somebody is handing me a book and then they say, oh, can you give it to Sarah? And I'm like, what? They're like, can you give it to her? Oh, sure, okay, I get it. In French, we have the same thing, is where we have two object pronouns. And it's super frustrating because even one is really challenging, but the idea of having two is like very challenging. The only nice thing, and there are exceptions and other things I don't have time for today, mainly because my bell is going to go in 4 minutes. I don't want to wrap this up. We have to go in this order, and that's actually why it's written in this order. It looks like a little flag. If ever you have more than one object pronoun, so let's say for some reason you've got les and I don't know, will, instead of being like, oh, which one goes where, it always goes in this order, except for those like exceptions later, and they're generally like when we make commands. So let's say it's like, I have a book, I give it to you. So let me actually, I'll just write that down. So I have a book, we just put in French, like, j'ai un livre. And then, let's just say I give. Let's just make a lot of room. We know, I should have given more room, but we know it has to go, the object pronouns have to go in between the pronoun and the verb. Next door is having way more fun than we are. It's got to go in here. So now we're going to place the idea of book, because it's a masculine word. I've got to go up here. So where am I going? Up here, so it's going to be le. So je. And then I want to give, who am I saying? To you. And then, so now the idea of you is going to be taken up here by the te. And so now I've got a choice of le and te. And so now this is where I have to figure out, I'm like, oh, where's it going to go? So now I follow my order of operations here. My te comes first, like as you guys can see, it goes te and then le. This is going to move things around. Good. So it's going to go te, and then le is going to be je te le donne. So that's how we do this. We left to right, double object pronouns. There are times, again, where you're going to see triple object pronouns. I've tried to find a few of them. So let's say we added the idea of, I have a book. I give, let's say, the book to you in the park. I give it to you over there. And let's say now we have the idea of there. Then it's a Y, and so then I'd have to just get rid of the E. Je te le donne. So I give it to you over there. So double, triple object pronouns. But again, I think what you're going to have to do is just go through systematically, one at a time. What do each of these words mean? And then like the second most important thing is taking a look at the verbs and which verbs are direct and indirect, because for here and here and here, it shouldn't matter, direct and indirect. But these are the two columns that make an enormous difference. The idea of him or it or her or it is quite challenging for us. So that is just a very brief general overview of direct object and indirect object pronouns. I hope that helps. Thanks.